Well, hello. I have returned, and it is like down. I have returned, and tonight is the big night. Tonight, the night for highlighting. Exciting. And there has been a slight change in the order of drawings that I'm planning. That order now has changed. Doesn't mean they won't get done. Don't get me wrong. This is the new project. I think it's called Samus. The reason I picked this one to do is that one of the first games I ever played that really got me into really liking video games. This, when I'm saying this, I do know that I was around at the start of this, so it's not the current one. Well, this is the current one, but was Metroids. Metroids was one of the most favorite games I ever played, and I'll tell you how long ago this was. I actually beat the game. I didn't beat the game, I completed the game. And after I completed the game, I found out that the Metroid was a woman, was a girl. Oh, that's cool. There was no internet or really to tell you about the game. Nobody ever said anything on the package or anything like that. I went, oh man, that is cool. So, in honor of Metroids and its new look and upgraded game and all that neat stuff, I've decided I'm going to do her. And I think she looks cool. I'm going to give her gold armor and the red armor, and it'll look really cool. Anyway, this is what's coming. Okay? So if you're wondering what is next on the agenda, that's her. I've sketched her out, and so there's been a slight little change. As a matter of fact, if you want to see on the agenda, this is the next character I'm doing. There'll be a slight change in this. It's going to be black on gray, not black on black, but going to be fun. And so that's the lineup. Now it's subject to change, not Samuels, because I'm going to start her tonight, but it is subject to change. And without further ado, as they say, I'm going to start highlighting. I hope you enjoy it, because I'm going to enjoy it. Because it's going to make this character, Ares, God of War. I'm just going to move some of my pencils out of the way here. Yes. Roll. Whoever invented the hexagon pencil, genius. But, say la vie. Water, I haven't got. To sop up a little. wonder if there we go. Now I do. Now I do. Um. Oh yeah. The person came and asked me last night about that painting behind me. Um. The one of the ocelot. I did this in Belize. I turned the light around, so hopefully you can see it a bit better. Um. I hope you can see it. I think you can see it okay. It's an ocelot in the jungle. I actually saw that ocelot and made quite an impression on me. But by the way, Peterman, thanks for following, man. That's great. Um, what I want you to look at is the reason I bring it to your attention as well is the frame around it. The frame is made all out of wood, and it was handcrafted in Belize by a guy who hand makes frames, and it's mahogany. It's got some ebony in it. It's got really exotic woods that you get in Belize, and every frame he makes is unique, one of a kind. And you see the pattern around it. I had never seen anything like it, and when I saw them, I said, "Oh yeah, that's for sure. I want that." And that's what he does. They're all made of little pieces of wood, about 3, 4 inches by maybe half an inch or so, and he puts them all together and glues them down to a sheet of mahogany plywood. Not plywood, it's actually mahogany, but it's really thin cut. And it's really, really cool. And I've never put anything on it. I've just let the wood do its thing. And, I'll tell you, it was a suitable frame for that painting. Yeah, that's it. What I wanted to show you. Light adjusted the other way again, so we're not right. I also want to make sure you can. Oh, check here. Perfect. It's a bit better. Let me just see how it comes up on the screen. Oh yeah, that shows me. Okay. So what you can see is I slightly change color from here to here. Um, Give it a nice tone. And now, without further ado, I'm going to do the dark highlights. Sure, fall on the floor. That's just what I wanted. So I'm going to start with the darks first and get them done. I'm putting a little bit of acrylic paint out here. I use this paint specifically for this type of work. Acrylic is student grade acrylic because really it's just for the. I'm not painting this. I'm just highlighting it. I'm going to go in here first. Take a few minutes, but it shall be worth it. I promise you. And this is an ivory black paint here I'm using. Now this is the second part of this technique that I teach, which is the Copic and the marker. Actually, not Copic, is new touch new markers because it's all underpainted. Touch new. And before, the reasons I do that are because it eliminates me having to put even more layers down. All it is alcohol with bright pigment. It's all a marker, really. Works so well on this. So well. That'll armor of and if you're new to the channel, this is all, well, 95% of it is all done in Prismacolor. On this one here, over here, I use Copics. Polychromes. And I use the polychromes because I wanted to show you the difference. And as I had told you, there really isn't a huge difference, except in my opinion. Prismacolor does a somewhat nicer job because you wax bases will be, but they both do a good job. I have them all, but I always come back to Prismacolor. Always. Always because of the blending. What this does is enhance already through contrast. And what you're seeing is it's almost like it's sharpening it up. That's kind of what the idea, or profound, right word to use. Get extremely sharp lines. Water. And remember, because you're using acrylic, add a little water to almost put down like a little bit I'm not gonna say glaze, but you almost can get a glaze down. And the reason is because you're water on top of wax. And if you can look at that side to this side, you'll see the difference. Remarkable. Now you can also use, if you wish, ivory black. Sorry, not ivory black, but Mars black. There's no reason why you can't use Mars. I would hesitate to use um, soot black or that because it's really flat. And prismacolors, by their very nature, are kind of shiny. And you get some areas on drawing that are dull. Now, it's not a big deal. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it. The reason I say that is because you can spray these sort of. Matter of fact, I kind of even recommend you spray them with fix it because there's that dreaded term that the guys who use, or girls who use polychromes call or recoil and tear. What is that? Wax bloom. Well, wax bloom is simply that the wax and the pigment, the wax kind of rises to the top, and it's easy to get off. I mean, all you do is take your knee, lift it, really, but it's like the boogeyman. Oh my God, I've got wax bloom. Call a doctor. You know, kind of makes me laugh. Trust me. Anybody who's ever painted professionally, one of the things you got to learn how to do first is get yourself out of them. Get yourself out of. Once you learn how to get yourself out of a mess, don't worry about it. What do I mean by a mess? Oh, an error or something that usually only you can see, believe it or not. Because I've had people come in years, like, oh my God, I've destroyed all my painting. I've worked on it, ruined. I can't even see what they're talking about. But, it's like the 50-pound gorilla. All they can see is this horrible little problem they've run into that they don't know how to fix. So usually about 15 minutes later, after it's fixed, they settle down. But honestly, you know, it's happens so often. It's just a thing in art that it's just something that happens. And if you're an artist, then you know real well. Sometimes you get people so afraid to do it that to mess it up in their eyes, they're paralyzed. And I do that, and I wreck it. I've ruined the best painting I've ever done. I got an idea. I'll take it to Paul, and Paul will know what to do. Well, yeah, of course I know what to do. This happened to me, so probably some point in time. Had a really neat chat last night with a young guy on the internet. Autistic. Uh, anyway, he's a follower. He's a nice kid, and he hasn't been painting long by the sounds of it. But Jesus, what a talent! He didn't know he had it. Work is really interesting. Like this, he asked me, "What do I like best?" And he's showing me his charcoal stuff. And for a newbie, good, it was good drawing. Good, good morning, Bliffen. Good evening. Hi, Blue Note. How you doing? I've just started doing the highlighting. I'm using black right now. If you got any questions regarding this, just give me a shout here because it's not complicated, but it's the key to these drawings. That's what I'm saying. It's the key because you can really, really bring a drawing to life, and you're going to see me do that. And by the way, in case you missed the first part, I'm going to be doing next Samus from Metroids. And I just recounted the story quickly that in the Stone Age, when video games first came around and they started being really popular, there was a few other companies out there who had them, but I think it was Nintendo. Anyway, I got told about this game called Metroids, how great it was. And I went, oh, okay. So I didn't have any clue what it was. I started playing Metroids. I'll tell you, it was so much fun. And I completed the game, and the neatest part of the whole thing that I remember was that nobody had told me, or there was nobody who said they knew. Actually, I didn't even know anybody who completed the game, frankly. But um, Metroid was a girl. I went, is that cool? So in honor of her, I'm gonna do the new updated look of her. So that's what's coming. As soon as I finish highlighting my buddy here, Aries. If you got any questions, just give me a shout here, and how I do this. Uh, Kind of the most fun part in a sense because you're right at the very end and you get to use all of the highlighting to make it just pop. Pop it will. It's already popping. I've only used black so far. I'm using ivory black. You can use Mars black if you don't suggest you use soot black, or as Winsor Newton calls it, lamp black, because it's really dull. I mean, it's made to be dull. Some applications need it. But see, prismacolor by nature has a bit of a shine to it because it's wax. Now you can get rid of the shine by spraying it with matte varnish. That's not a problem. So then it wouldn't matter if you soot black, but or lamp black as over at Windsor. But a quick shot of um, fixative. Fixes all of that stuff. Pardon me while I do my only vice. Vegetable glycerin and just a drop of vanilla. I know. What's the deal with that? Well, I just love it. I love the tea. What it is. You got me. Love the tea. And it's vegetable. And it's only vape. So. But no, as I was asked, there is nothing else. And I'm in Canada, so as you know, you may know or not know, I don't know. Come next July, we'll be able to buy cannabis at the store. It's going to be legalized in Ontario. Oh, in Canada, actually. And only problem with that, this is for me, it takes away all my, I don't know what you call it, but it takes away my will to draw or so. I don't know. I just can't do it. So even though coming, I'm not using it. Not when I'm drawing any. Because I'll be honest with you. I'm drawing. I was talking to somebody last night about artistic caustic. One of my followers. Anyway, I was talking to him for a while last night, early hours of the morning. He was painting away, and I had a long talk to him, and giving some tips and oil paint stuff. Anyway, what he said was he was asking me about the buzz you get from painting, and yeah, you do get a buzz. It's not a buzz, but it gives you like gives you the best feeling I can tell you is like you're in a warm blanket in a blizzard or something. It's like I don't know. Such a calming effect that you draw. It's fabulous. I get it every time. The whole world could coming down around me as long as I'm drawing. Now I hope the whole world isn't coming in. Make me want to sleep. Yeah, well, that's part of the problem, man. It makes me want to sleep too. But I need that. I need that energy to draw. Yeah, paint. For me, the two don't go together. Like alcohol, I don't drink, but alcohol. Um, I never could understand. The reputation artists have without alcohol. There was a time when you said I'm an artist, and they go, "Oh, how much do you drink every day?" Oh God, every movie and drunken artist. Well, I don't know how they did it, honestly, how they do it, or if they still do it. I could never. Just doesn't work from my artistic bone. But hey, that floats your boat. I'm not telling you not to do it. It's okay by me. Whatever makes you happy, go ahead and you do it. Well, the only rule I have regarding that, as long as it doesn't affect anybody, that it make you happy, not anybody. In other words, happiness does not come at the expense of other people. I don't know if that's a rule written down somewhere, but if it is, I. Now I know this looks a little meticulous to do, but the results end up so spectacular. Now, telling you this, now like watercolorists the world over, they have groups that are purists. Can't use anything but colored pencil on a colored pencil drawing. My question is, why? Why is that? Do a painting and you enhance it, whatever you use. I don't care how you do it, but you enhance it and it looks a bit better. And it works better. What's the problem? I really want to know what is the problem. And they can never tell me what the problem is. Because my premise is, look, you paint not only just for you, but because other people really enjoy it when they look at the stuff. I mean, it makes them feel good and makes their day, and you know. So what's the what is the big deal? What is it? If it makes it better, it means the viewing of it is better. So what's the problem? People don't come up to you in an art gallery. So tell me everything you use there. I need to know before I consider purchasing this painting because it has to be this and it has to be that. They don't do that. People look at a painting and they like it. They don't care how you did it. Years ago, there was briefly notorious for painting with coffee. You could believe it. And I read it and I laughed. And, yeah, she started getting some good press, and I went, God, kidding me? And I watched and watched and watched, and I knew it would happen. And I knew it would just die on the vine. And the reason I knew it would die on the vine is because it coffee fades, color fades. 6 months later, the thing was like almost invisible. That didn't last very long, which everybody knew. Well, all the artists knew. I'm assuming she didn't know. She would have mentioned it. Yeah, you really enjoy it, but you only enjoy it for 6 months. Really? Why is that? Oh, it'll fade away. Huh. How much did you want for it again? Okay. Anyway, in my day, I've done some restoring of art too. The most famous piece that I've ever restored, famous for me anyway, was a big painting. It was a big painting. And it was from, hey, what's up? How you doing? BP, I'm here. What character is it? Oh, sorry, it's Ares, God of War. That's who it is. I'm just finishing up. And I'll show you coming next. This is Samus from Metroid, one of my all-time favorites. And I played it when it first came out, and I loved that game. I really did. And it's really cool because right on the monitor, it's not quite as orange. I'm going to make it redder because the colors will really pop red, and that's what I'm going to do. Red on gold. The armor a little bit and play with it. It'll still be Samus. I move this just slightly here now so I can get over here without tagging my. And anyway, so what I'm doing right now is doing the final highlights of Ares. Um, Doing these highlights because it makes the drawing pop even more. Yahoo! And I'm going to be breaking out any day now. The minute I get a spare minute, I'm going to breaking out my airbrush to do some background work. Because some of these I've looked at and really like and haven't got at them because I know they'd really look good with some background. And I don't mean like buildings or trees and all that stuff. I just mean toned background. This is on gray Stratmore paper, illustrative paper, fabulous paper for doing this type of work. It's not. It's kind of like illustration board, but I like it better. So yeah. I do. I really like it better. It has enough texture to really hold on to lots of layering. Uh, oh yeah. There he is. Damn. Okay, I'm moving now. Actually, I'm just gonna move. Now this takes kind of like Do you ever do original characters? Yeah, I do. Um, I do some concept work, but the trouble is, for me, is that when you do original concept work, the minute it hits the internet, say it took you 6 months to really plan it all out and get it done and all that stuff. The second it hits the internet, it's gone. So my problem is that um, it's a lot of work, and there has to be there has to be some silver lining, like. But no, I've done work like that. You really have to watch it. I'll tell you why. I did this painting one time. This was back in like 10 years ago, maybe more. I don't know. Anyway, when I had my gallery and my studio in the gallery, and I did this painting, and it was a local scene. Everybody. And it was done in high realism, really enhanced. It was acrylic. No, sorry. But everybody loved it. In those days, you could sell prints. And yeah, I sold quite a few prints of it. I went to all the other galleries around my area here. They had it. And prints of it. Well, anyway, I'm at the gallery one day. And guess what happens? The yellow pages get delivered. And what's on the front of the yellow pages? My painting. I'm not talking about a magazine. I'm talking the yellow pages. Now, I know some of you probably won't remember the yellow pages. That was a directory for every single phone number of a business. And it was like the Bible. I mean, if you wanted a business, you had to go on the yellow pages. Well, here it was delivered. They were free. But here it was delivered, and it was like an inch thick. My painting was on the front of it. Went, what the? Like nobody had ever contacted me or asked to use it or I had quoted a price to anybody. It was just there. So I got on the phone and I phoned Yellow Pages. And the conversation was like this. Hi, this is Paul Sandlin, and I just got my new Yellow Pages. My painting's on the front of your book. How's that? They went, could you hold a minute, sir? I said, sure. Who comes on the phone is like the head guy. Goes, um, your painting is the painting on the front of the magazine? I said, yeah, it is. And he goes, look, let me come out to see you. I said, sure. Come out and see me. Well, I had all my guns ready and all that stuff, like, oh, I don't know, they're going to do this and that and the other thing, whatever. And I kind of, when he came, he was such a nice guy. I mean, somebody had screwed up in the art department, not followed up on ownership and copyright and all that stuff. So he says to me, "Listen, I want to make this right with you. What can I do?" I thought about it and I went, "Well, I mean, there's no way." Like he said, he premised it by saying, "There's no way we can go around and collect all the yellow pages from every business and customer we've dropped to. Like, I'm talking thousands, thousands, and thousands of." I said, "No, no, I understand." So then I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, how's this? I'll give you a full free 1-page ad in the yellow page, just you, for an entire year." Now, when you have a business, sometimes you've got to say to yourself, "Wow, that's going to get me a lot of business," and it did. I admit. Um, and I said, "Yeah, okay. Now, if you wanted to advertise those days, get a full page ad, it would cost you about 5 grand. So, mind you, I still had the copyright and all, uh, but it ended up like it basically sold the painting for me for probably double what I really was. I had to really conceptualize the price at. And I got a year's free advertising that got me tons of it. So, to answer your question, this long, involved anecdote is kind of to answer your question, my friend. Do concept stuff is great, but today, um, the minute it's out there, it's gone. Somebody will change it, and you got to know the rules too. Like, if they change it 20%, then you don't have a copyright. I think it's 22%. They can basically steal your ID, and then you don't get any compensation. So you do a lot of work. Now, I'm not willing to do a lot of work to keep my. So yes, I do that, but I don't put them out for any reason. Like the time, in the late 1990s, a guy came to me. "Listen, I want to start a greeting card company." And I said, "Well, tell me more." He gave me his ideas, and why he came to me is he wanted to put my images on the greeting card company. I went, "Cool. Well, how much do I make?" Da, 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 on and on. Anyway, it ended up I owned a portion of the company. That's how we did it. I will tell you, you greeting cards in those days, really, you could make a card that you sold for like $4 or $5. You could have printed for like 5 cents, because you printed in bulk. Believe me, the envelope cost more than it cost to have the card printed. And all we did is blank cards, no sentiment in that. So they were all occasion. So what happened was, sold cards like they were going out of style. what a fabulous business. And did a number of great stuff. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story goes back to the concept stuff. One day, I get a call from somebody I know and says, I want to show you something. I got lots of calls like that. So I always say the same thing. Yeah, sure, just come on over. Let me see what they're talking about. So he brings me in. I just got this. So he shows it to me. And I go, that looks like my greeting card. One of my greeting cards. He goes, I looked at the back. The information wasn't on the back. There was information about where it was done and all this stuff, and I did it. My name was on there, and all that kind of stuff. And it was gone. None of that was there. So then it hit me. Ooh, somebody has stole my image and put it on their own greeting card. I'm figuring, oh great, just what I need. Copyright law. Oh, no. So then I looked a little harder, and in a tiny little corner at the bottom of the card on the back, it said made in PRC. Now I'm thinking, Puerto Rico? Like, what the hell's PRC? So, if you guessed, you're right. The People's Republic of China. And I went, oh God. Oh God. So my guess is what had happened. They liked it, stole it, and made up their own. And I would have had no hope of ever, not in those days anyway, ever recouping it. And you know, they don't print like a print run for me would be 50,000 cards. Well, you know what it's like in China. They probably printed a million cards. So I wound down the business thinking, wow, this is a tidal wave. This was before dollar stores, by the way. So, you know, you can go to a dollar store and you start for $1 because it costs about quarter cent to me. And I saw what was going to happen, and I wound down the whole thing over the next 18. So went that in. So this is the kind. What I'm trying to point out to you is this is the problems you have when you get out into the art world and business world, whatever you want to call it. The art of business, art in business, everyone. But that's kind of what you're doing. To be honest with you, I just don't have the energy nor the time. But yeah, the conceptual stuff I do, I don't reproduce. I put it in my portfolio. If a time comes where it says, do you have any conceptual stuff that I can take a look at? And I say no, not unless they're looking to purchase like games. Also, because you got to remember something too. With the advent of Photoshop started off a small little company. But people quickly figured out that you could easily change things. A little story for that. Like I know a few professional photographers, and they were fashion photographers. They had a good gig, really did. They took the photos and they got paid. And one day I ran into them, talking to him. He goes, Jesus, I need to expand my repertoire. I said, why? I drove a Lotus. It can't be that bad. He goes, no, no, what's coming? I go, okay, what's coming? Pray tell. He goes, well, all the shots that he did last year. So he had done a whole spread for some fashion magazine. And they'd pay like a ton of money. Like, there's no question about that. But what happened was they had taken his shots and they'd moved the arms on the model because the models have to give a release, right? So it's your shot. They get paid and they have no more ability, or they didn't anyway, ability to come back regarding the photo. And the people really who ordered the photos and bought them, you didn't really have copyright on it because you signed all that stuff away. And I know that what the laws are, but no, you have to sign it away. And then I realized what the deal was. They must have known way ahead of. I mean, their marketing department probably figured all this stuff out. Anyway, what happened is that they had moved the arms on the models with Photoshop so it looked perfect, and the clothes that they were wearing, they changed the color to that season's colors. And he goes, make a dime. And I said, wow, that sucks. And he said, did it ever? Anyway, that was the end of that gig for those guys. And then I knew guys who did advertising. I know the guy who did Clairol. I know the guy who did Clairol and Noxzema. Stuff you probably have heard of. Used to do all the art ads in the front of the products for them. Well, then came the time when they wanted, um, if they wanted to change, they had to go back to the guy who did it. This is what we want now, and then again, not anymore. And like he was an older artist, not old, but like end of career. He just said, screw it, retired. He was right. It was over. If you ever want to know what's happening, look at go into a grocery store. Now there was a time when really high res photography was the thing. Labels like like cookie stuff like. Um, I was away in Belize for 3.5 years. So doing my own little research schedule. What I do, I go to the grocery store and I take a look, see what's. I look at the labels. Lo and behold, what's coming back? Hand rendered labels. Because once everybody did it, they want a different look again. These guys are getting hand rendered labels. And I go, wow. There's an old story about Steven Spielberg, when he made that movie Schindler's List. Well, Schindler's List was done in black and white, for the most part anyway. There's a few spots where there's color. For the most part, it was all black and white. And what happened is Spielberg looked out and said, okay, who knows how to do these shots in white? That it's not just doing it in color and turning it into black and white. It's a different form of lighting and all that. And there was nobody around left who knew how to do it really well. And so Spielberg, being the smart guy that he is, created the retirement home, motion picture retirement home, looking for the lighting guys, and they were there, all retired and elderly. So we got to ask you how you did this, and sure they were happy to oblige, but he showed them tricks of the lighting with black and white. So like, be careful because it can get lost. Once it's lost, it's lost. That's happened. All relates back to the one question, my friend. Do you ever do original characters? And I hope all those little anecdotes, that's your answer. Yes, but you can't see. I also do copies of old masters. Well, no, I don't mean stuff maybe that the Louvre or something happened. Right place at the right time. Happened 1990, a while ago. But what happened was that people then were the last generation of people kind of lived in their homes till they died, and now they go to old age. In those days, that was the last group that I could figure, anyways, lived in their homes. And what happened is that their kids, um, they would inherit grandma's stuff or mom and dad's stuff or whatever. So I got a call from a guy that had a real problem. Says, can you come out to my house and give me an idea? So he lived in Tobaco, outside. In those days, it was a separate city, but I went to his house. This is like a suburb of Toronto, and he lived in a nice area, nice guy. And I said, okay, so what is it that you think, or I can help you with? He goes, well, look at this. And I went into his living room, and there on the wall was I would say he's a B-list master. They were Dutch. Originally, his mother was from Holland, and she had had this painting in her possession her whole life, almost. And said, "Oh, nice, very well done." Uh, he goes, "Well, here's my problem. I just contacted my insurance company, told them if I could put this on my household insurance, and they said, 'Oh yeah, no problem.'" And then I asked, "Okay, and how much will it increase my insurance?" Man, talk about brutal. I don't remember exactly the figure, but it would make you fall off your chair. I went, it can't be. Well, yeah, it is. And the painting was worth, estimate, about $100,000. Now, this is back in 1990, so that was a fair bit of money then. And I said, "Whoa, man, I see your problem." He goes, "What I'd like you to do, can you do an exact duplicate of it?" And says, "I want you to sign a contract. And what I'm going to do is hang yours in this original frame. Yeah. And I'm going to put mine in lock and key, whatever, safety deposit." Went, "Jesus, great idea." And he went, "Thanks." Thus opened another door. Did a lot of them. Even at that point in time, like over a point period of a few years, I did a bunch. And then it kind of just died off. And only that, and I couldn't quite figure why it was dying off. Well, I realized that, the people were disposing of the stuff prior to them leaving the. That's what happened. So they would do what they had to do. My guess is most of them sold it because they had bought it, like people had bought it. Grandmother or whatever it was. No, his mother had bought the piece like in 1940 or something. I don't know. But she paid not a fraction of what the price was now. That was the thing, right? So it was an extravagance, but it was something you could afford. Then it became something that was more than an extravagance. That's where I came in. Did lots. Well, it's good in a way because I'll show you how you. The trick in doing this is don't overpower your highlight. No, don't. Because if you overpower your highlight, lose the look. So you just want to enhance it. You don't want to make a 65-yard field goal out of it. Just enhance it. So the rule of the game is don't get carried away. Don't get carried away. I'm gonna move it this way. I'm sorry for the, but it's don't want to be dragging my to the. Hear ya, I hear ya. Wait a minute. Turn my head sideways. I'm sorry. Uh, only be a second. Not to worry. Finish. Okay. Da 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 da. Last time. When you highlight, you can make the highlight a little bigger or a little smaller, depending on how light you want to go. And in this case, well, tacky messed up there. Okay, I know how to fix it. I know. Now watch this part. light. This is where we're looking at berries. Or, yeah. Yeah. Can you see that Christmas is coming on now? Like it's makes it. Heavier some places than others. Right, yeah. It's drying. Which simply means back in. Fix that edge. That's what it means. And that's what I did. That doesn't. That doesn't. That. You see what they mean. Now, like I said, not a big remedy. Now that's the blacks, whites. Now we get into some color. First color I'm going to bright add red. Matter of fact, I'm going to get up. Just scumble a little bit of red. Eyes are Even me. Handing out the fairest. Nice, gotta be first. These are enhancements. Go into the darks. I mentioned that last night. I was going to drop a little bit. That's exactly what I even in. Guess it gives it that extra little bit of Hell's Den. Dun 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 dun. Dun, dun. Bring it right. Now you may be saying just put ever black. The reason I'm doing that is because you won't see that at it. Nobody does. And if you do, damn, that's you're gonna. But the reason is simply that they're enhancements, and people look at a picture, the whole picture, not just a little bit. Do extra stuff. A good example of this. I'm telling you this, but I know probably won't know about it. But I'm going to tell you so you can Google it. And there's a famous painting of a black guy in the middle of an ocean storm on a boat that's crippled, like mast is broken, all this sharks all around him. Oh God! And it was done by an American painter, Homer Winslow. And when Homer Winslow was selling the painting, his publisher or his gal or whoever the people were selling. Anyway, they came back, said to him, "Well, we don't quite understand why there's red all the way through the waves." And he told them, "It's an enhancement. I like it, and it stays." And the only reason I remember that picture is because of those enhancements. He was right. Never forgot that. Ever. That is nice. Uh, so just on the inside, highlight a little bit of enhancements. This is how you make your art sing. And if it sings, you win. You win big time. Well, now use a little bit of this. Got it. This will bring out the golds more. What you do with the yellow is you don't really slather all over. You just sort of, where I was talking about a little bit of wash almost. Brings it out just. And what you can do, go right up to your highlight. Put the trust me. Extra. Especially when you just put in like a little daub, that's where like the light is reflecting gold, bright yellow. You've already established this by your painting. You hit the yellow, just enhances it. You want to build it up layers, like all good acrylic paint can be done. And what happens is up with really really cool. Hoping you're liking this, buddy. This is the finish. Very. Started off with a rough sketch. I gotta move it again. I'm sorry. thing you don't want to do with acrylic paint, especially if you're laying it working flat. By the way, this is called working flat, believe it. I've got to admit, artists have a way with words. So how do you paint? Well, I leave it on a table and I work. Oh, so it's flat. Yeah. I guess we'll call it working flat. Yeah, that sounds good. As opposed to on an easel. There are artists who just work flat. Yeah. I do both, frankly, but bother me either way. I even work upside down. I know that sounds. The reason I work upside down is because I taught for so many years. Taught art for so long that you'd be sitting across the table, so always you were always looking at it upside down. Well, if you're looking at it upside down, you end up seeing it your head the right I do the right way up. So it doesn't matter what angle it's on. It doesn't matter to me. Then there's people who just work on easels. All of that. Work on an easel. Also depending on the size of it. Gotta be there we go. See how the golds just dump. All that's done is putting acrylic wash over top. Now remember, without the prism underneath, right? Okay, so I want to get a little bit of yellow in blood drying. So, oh well. What is an artist to do? What is an artist to do? Now yellow is a little transparent, obviously. Not all yellows are transparent. Can't do acrylic wash over first chinny chin. The hair of the chinny chin. Funny how little. Okay. Well, Lee, what do you think? Closer to Aries, God of War. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Looks great. I hope. I hope. I'm just looking at her on the screen here. Just giving it the once over. Yeah, I'm happy with him. I'm happy with him. I am happy. He's he was fun to paint, I gotta tell you. Tell me from where you're sitting, do you really see the eyes glow? Can you really see him glow? If you see that, just let me know. Because if not, I'll put in a little bit more highlight in him. Right now, he looks like it glows. Oh man, I just saw a spot I didn't put a highlight in. Ah, well, that happens. There. Looks glow? Looks like it's glowing? Good. So what do you think, folks? Is that a wrap? Aries, you are now going. Oh, I know what you can do. I know. Where did you go? Ah. So now we have. We can get into our viewing sites here. We have Ares, God of War, versus Loki, God of the Norsemen. But you both of those at the same time? I hope so. Wait. If I move this out of here, this over here, get both of these guys in. Ah, that's better. There's Loki, and there's Ares, God of War. I don't know which one. I don't know. Hard choices here. Each one has some parts I really, really like. Like more in one than the other, and then the other one's got parts I like more than them. Damn. Hmm. But you can see here where I also had put red inside the black in there. Same idea that I did over here. It just gives it like it's like putting something over top of a light, you know? So it's just the color, but it sort of glows from the underneath the light. You quite can't see it, but you know it's there. That's kind of what it is. So those two guys finished. Any Aries? I'm happy with both of them. I like the armor. I like the blue. I like the. Yep, I like them. But as we say in the art world, onward. Now, as I said, I have sketched out. I think it's pronounced Samus. I'm not 100% sure. If it isn't, somebody can phonetically tell me what it is. But anyway, that's her. Samos. I wrote this in here on the when I looked at it. Anyway, um, this is kind of cool. This is all like red, red, red. I'm gonna make it like really red. Then we have some really nice gold through here. If I remember correctly, this was gold. I think maybe the laser copier didn't pick that up. Then we got some nice metal I'm gonna make here, bluish metal, and her face is in there, which is really kind of cool because it glows green, which is lots of fun to do. And across here, you can't see the lights in them, but the lights are in them. So it in the green is reflected off in her long blonde hair here. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Just let me just have a minute's rest so before. Are you kidding me? Took an hour and 38 minutes to. Well, it takes what it takes. But I definitely want to start Samos tonight. But I think what I'm going to do is start off left to right. I'm going to get this section in here started. Is that kind of cool bluey metal. Yes, Bliffen. A lot of complementary colors. And it's very pleasing to the eye, I find. And I like the reds too. I mean, I haven't really done anything with lots and lots of reds, but the last couple have been um, more blues. But the reds are so cool. Like I want something that's really, really bright. I don't know. It's like the old saying: you go red, you go blue, you go blue, you go red. Well, since I can draw both, so I'll do both. If it changes, as good as the rest. But yeah, I think it. I'm happy. I'd be happy. So the first thing I'm going to do is what I do, obviously. I'm going to start pulling out some colors here. Okay, we've got brightest red. Now this is my set of, not scarlet, deep red, vivid red. There we go. There's the number one. Then I want some I have two full sets of these, one regular set and one manga set. There's two. And I'm going to use the cad yellow on the gold beneath, and some bright green for the rest. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this marker. Again, these are the Touch 5. As far as I know, they're made in Korea. Doesn't say on them that I can see anywhere where it's made. But if they're not made in Korea, just let me know and I'll tell you where they're made. You can't get them in my local art stores. That's all I know. You have to get them off the internet. That's okay. Better than me. I got them. I got them. Okay. And like normally, what I would do here is simply okay. Just put some more accompaniment. I want to really get this metal look, so I do underpainting all with the marine blue. Oh, it's not marine. Yeah, it is marine. Sorry. It is marine. Uh, you got a song in your head you can't get rid of. Hey, dude, I'm really happy. Makes you feel so good when you finish it. That works out. That's the key. It has to work out. If it don't work out, you're not happy. I'm not. It doesn't happen a lot, I'll show you. Well, it doesn't happen. One of the reasons it doesn't happen anymore because I plan it out 8 ways. Person margin of it or very little. I'll tell you how I practice doing that, working things out so it's easier. Like you kind of learn how to do it. Is I'll take say oh an old master or something, and I'll translate it from now they're an oil say, and I'll translate that into a watercolor. Yeah, you heard me right, a watercolor. And believe me, it is not easy to do. On one of the scrolls up here, you can see one. I did a Vermeer, and it's a watercolor, famous oil by Vermeer. It's hard to do, and it's kind of teaching yourself a lesson because when you have to translate everything into a different medium, man, you really have to think about what you're doing and how you're doing it and how you're going to do it, what works and what doesn't work, and it's like taking a course or something, you know, like it's difficult. When it works, it works really good, and they call it translating. And I've done quite a few of those, and it's for me, it's like the learning curve. And if it works, you end up with a really cool painting. You go, oh my God, isn't that a Vermeer? Yeah, it is a Vermeer. Oh my God, you did a Vermeer in watercolor? Yeah. Anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is I've sold a lot of paintings, like lots. Because people have never seen it as watercolor, right? And I do it high realism if it is high realism. Mostly that's all I do. I don't abstract. Mind you, I was taught to paint all that way. I was my art teacher when I paint like Rembrandt, Vermeer, um, oh, um, Da Vinci. I was also taught Renoir. Like their strokes or techniques, etc. You know, it's. It's fun. It really is. You know, I didn't pull out a purple. I pull purple out here to get kind of a. I'll tell you though that I love that Metroid. So I'm really kind of happy that I'm doing it down memory lane. That wasn't too. Why didn't you come on? Okay, if that's the way it's got to be. Oh, man, damn. Want to come brand new set. Sticking it. Oh no, it did come out good. That's one thing with it. You gotta wait and see for a second how it dries. And once you see how it dries, then you're okay. That's how it goes on, especially because you have to you kind of have to second guess yourself because um, if you're not familiar with the marker, like a lot of these colors are new for me from the original set, so I'm not 100% sure how they're gonna turn out, but they turned out okay. Now let's see, vivid red. Okay. Yeah, it's red, really red. Should make colored pencil. Okay. Front, visor. Scale. But you are right. Complementary colors, all the difference. You know, I think when you ask yourself really, get down to the finish of a painting where it's pleasing to the eye. People look at it and go, yeah. Or do they, ugh. They go, yeah, and won the game. Not really the only reason. Well, I'll be honest with you, I probably was much more fun if people are enjoying them. For me, anyway. I never quite understood that logic. Like, don't look at my painting. Why? I do understand it. If it's a new artist, I understand, because often they're um, you know, self-confident. Most of the time, just a question. If it's a like a well-known artist or whatever, it's just really a question of he doesn't want anybody to see the process. That's all. Magic feel unveiling. Done that, for the portrait unveiling. Insisted upon. Oh no, we're going to unveil it. Made me kind of nervous. I don't know why. Not like I should be nervous. The painting was fine. I double, triple checked it. And what happens if they unveil it and everybody goes, "Ugh"? Didn't happen, but it runs through your mind, like runs through your head, like, God, what'll happen? End result, like somebody goes, "Yuck, man, what were you thinking?" God, no. And believe me, I have run into my share of that kind of people. Anytime. When I was young, not anymore. Sometimes you just think people are mean, like, ah, nothing good. Keep it to yourself. I promised never to do. Here I did. I did. Stupid. Into an argument. Something about art. Don't even remember exactly what. That's how important it was. I don't remember what the hell the argument was. Anyway, um, oh man, and she could talk up a storm. Oh, yeah. So finally, I kind of said, well, put up or shut up. Like that kind of stuff. I've had it. You're telling me this and this and this. Well, let me see your stuff. And then she responded instantly with, well, let me see your stuff. So what I did is I went to my YouTube channel and just fired off one of those quick speeded up videos of me. I was drawing fruit, apple, pear, um, apple, pear, whatever. Anyway, there. I can't remember. But anyway, so I put it up, and people are watching this argument go on, right? As people are wont to do, like, oh, look at this, look at these two going at it, right, right, right. Well, anyway, I had spent, I don't know how much, way too much time dealing with this person. It was the most opinionated. Anyway, so now it was put up or shut up time, right? The OK Corral. And she puts up her work. Oh my God. I didn't say anything. I never said a word. I just shut it down. I mean, best she could do was imitations of old Disney stuff, and they were really bad. And I wasn't drawing anime. I was drawing realistic stuff. And instantly, I went, oh my God, this person is an idiot. It can't. And I'm not talking about a kid here. This was a grown up person, like. So I said, that was it for me. I never said a word. I never said a thing. Then all of a sudden, my your chat box on Facebook pops up, and a bunch of people were saying, "Oh my God, loved your drawing, by the way. What's the address they're at?" And I was giving it out and all that stuff. And I don't know what she was getting, but to a person, it was like, "Oh my God." And then it was like this is down in Belize, but and the person lived in Belize. And then she abruptly, and I mean abruptly, she just left the channel, never to return. I thought, was that a wise thing to do? You know what? I wish I'd never done. Even after the fact, I never get in. Never, ever thought about art. Not about art. No, 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 no. I call my work impressionistic. It gives me the excuse not to go high. Well, you're in good company. Um, you're in good company. You really are. The, the trouble is the impressionists. The original impressionists. They were all trained artists. They just didn't just decide to start painting. They all went to art school and all that stuff. And what they did is they looked out. Oh, I didn't tell you the story of the impressionists. I'll tell you the story how all that came about. Um, what happened was when you got to around the 1880s, 1870s, there had been a movement in England called the Pre-Raphaelite movement, and what it was classic, not British situations, and neoclassicism, things like that. The Lady of Shalott, all of those guys, they called them Pre-Raphaelites, and they had almost taken over British art at the time. So then you got the Impressionists. And these guys were trying, obviously, to make a name for themselves. And when they first did it, like Renoir and these boys, they were laughed out of the salons in Paris. They really were. People just cut them. If you read at the time the reviews of the work, you got to feel for these guys. I mean, they were. Oh, it was disgusting. Like the crap that was written about how juvenile and how no training, which wasn't true. They were trained. And after about 30 years, I mean, it had caught on like crazy, like Monet and Renoir and the boys, right? And what brought that on? Well, I'll use Surrey. He did Standing on This Stand, that huge painting all made of dots. There's a huge painting in the Louvre, I think, all made of dots. And if you stand back, all the dots come together of paint. You see beautiful scene of people standing on the stand. He's the most well-known Surrey of doing it, but there's quite a few others who did it too. And how they did it, what happened was, you need in art something that nobody's seen before. And the clue to it all is what was invented at almost the same time, Impressionism, was the camera. And guys like Surrey, they looked at photographs, and like all inquisitive people, they looked at them under not a microscope, I guess, but under like heavy-duty magnifying glasses, and they noticed they were all made up of dots, darks and lights. Art isn't made up of dots; it completely saturates the material, so that's why it's always richer than a photograph. That's just the way it is. It's the process. And they noticed it was made up of dots. They went, aha, dots. Dots it is. Oh, yes, it was. So, anyway, what happened was that Surrey went, I got an idea. What if I take all those dots, expand it all out, use color from a distance, just like a photograph, which is, say, 12, 14, 15 inches from your face, you're looking at it. If you look at it from 40 feet, you'll see this amazing scene come to life. But if you go up close to it, it's just a mass of dots. This wasn't lost on him. It was new. And what he did is he did paintings that incorporated that. And he was the toast to Paris for a while. Now, at the same time, the other Impressionists, what they did is they noticed something about a photograph. And what they noticed was what was in focus, what the eye of the camera saw. Unlike digital cameras now, this is not digital. This is like old daguerreotypes. What they noticed was what was in focus was the primary object of the photograph, and what was out of focus was around the sides of the photograph. In other words, it really mimicked the eye, because that's what the aperture of a camera used to. Now everything. So anyway, what they did is like take a classic Renoir. You'll notice in Renoir that the object that he wants to usually is in clear focus. But as you move away from the object, things become less and less in focus. And took a lot of heat for this. First, people started to realize, God, man, that's how my eye sees. Exactly the same thing. And all of a sudden, revolution started. It was called Impressionism. Now, how they handled the the rest of the stuff that was out of focus often make a painting a success or a failure. But from Renoir's perspective, that's how he did it. And if you look closely at a Renoir, you'll see that the main object, the woman or whoever he's painting, is in focus. And that was the secret. And they all did. Painting what they saw with their eye. And it completely revolutionized art. Now people, not what I see. This and this and this, but I know it's blurry on my peripheral vision. Well, that's exactly what they were. It was blurry on their peripheral vision. And those blurs became, and the blurrier it got, like if you got a Monet, it even worked, really went further. But yeah, that's where it all started. Um, that's what happened. That's why you have impressions art. And there's nothing wrong with that, because impressionistic art is how the eye sees. Now, there's variations on the theme, I understand that, but that was original the original idea was that's how it broke down the doors of the art world in Paris until they became the toast of Paris. Now, in that mix, you had guys like Van Gogh, who was on a different plane altogether. In my opinion, Van Gogh stuff suffered from an incredibly bad stigmatism, and that's kind of the way I think he drew these. That's really what Starry Starry Night. You wear glasses, take them off, and look at the stars. Starry Starry Night, yeah, that's what you see. And that's, to me, I think that's exactly what he was painting. Painted what he saw. The case of absolute terrible astigmatism. Well, not terrible. I mean, art was pretty cool, but that's what started it all. Because his early work isn't really like that. If you look at it, uh, complete change. I mean, you got to feel for the guy. I mean, really, painted his entire life, probably thousands of paintings. And he never sold a painting that he sold one to his brother his entire life. Christ, people even use them for target practice. And all of a sudden, people go, "It was a genius with color. Look at this." And now he's a renowned artist, and nobody understood. A lot of things influence art, like, and things you would never expect sometimes too. For instance, if you look at The Stream by, oh, for God's sake, mental. Emptying the. Who did the screen? Tim's Vermeer? Oh, I just saw that. I wish I'd seen it earlier. Change the subject. Talk about Tim's Vermeer. I watched it, the whole thing. Everything. And I gotta tell you, since Vermeer is one of my favorite artists, I have studied this man's art very carefully. Looked at them, gone and seen them, reproduced them in watercolor so I could see how he did it. I've done tons of stuff, Vermeer stuff. And Tim's Vermeer. Now you know Penn and Teller is like a comedy team, right? You know that. Um, in my opinion, Tim's Vermeer is one elaborate joke, a Penn and Teller joke. They pulled one over, and they didn't give up the joke. To this day, people think it was a real thing, and there's a lot of clues in the movie that there's something amiss. One of them is that you remember when they did it, they had they had Tim, who was allowed to go in and look at the painting. It was a girl. Vermeer's the girl at the piano for it, I think it was. Anyway, they went in and looked at the painting, and they said, "Well, okay, did you see?" He went, "Oh yes, I saw the painting, the original." Okay, how long did you see it? 5 minutes. That just sort of passes in the movie. And here's a guy, like supposedly spending years on this project of doing a Vermeer, and he sees the original painting for 5 minutes. Now yeah, it was a giant joke. It was a Penn and Teller stunt joke. That's what it was. And they fooled everybody. They never tell anybody the joke. But someday they'll come out and say, the whole thing was a joke. He only saw the original painting for 5 minutes. How the hell can you spend all that time saying you're reproducing a Vermeer and all you've got is a copy? You don't even have a copy. You got a photograph. You know photographs have different light values and colors aren't the same. If you had the original Vermeer in front of him, you might have given him a little bit of, maybe this is there's something to this. But when he said that, yeah, I saw it for 5 minutes. That was Penn and Teller saying, "This is a joke. I hope you realize it." And it had all the Penn and Teller attributes of a joke, like the overblown stuff and the guy breaking down because he just can't do it anymore, and this idiotic way he was painting of putting the color down, and he was looking through like this parabolic mirror and getting the color and moving on. Oh my god. Yeah, that makes sense, except they didn't know the real colors. And the other thing is about that movie. Vermeer. One of the things about Vermeer was they knew he had. Nobody knows a lot about him. That's one thing. But they knew he had somebody who really, really was like a patron. And the reason I say that is because he used um, ultramarine blue. Now I don't know if you know this, but ultramarine blue, up until recent times, modern times, 1900s, was the most expensive color in the world. As a matter of fact, Michelangelo did the Descent from into Hell behind the chapel in the Sistine Chapel. That giant painting on the wall, not on the ceiling, but on the wall. He used up the entire supply of lapis lazuli in the entire world at the time to get that ultramarine blue color. So, you know, it was very expensive stuff, let me tell you. So anyway, Vermeer only used ultramarine blues, and that's why his paintings are so incredibly vibrant. And he used a very limited color palette. Like he used a lot of sienna and umbers, and I remember, oh yeah, in the movie too, how he said how the human eye couldn't discern color or across a certain spectrum on one of the walls that Vermeer had painted. Like I think somebody just, I think the human eye can see like 100 million colors or something. Are you kidding me? Of course, Vermeer would have noticed the gradation of the light across the wall. I mean, all this Penn and Teller nonsense went on and on because that's part of their shtick. They do a fantastic magic trick, but it's nonsense, right? I mean, the way they talk about it, and then they do the trick, and then the trick works, and then you go, "Oh God, that's amazing, magician!" But you got to put all the funny stuff and the BS first. That's the way they do it, and that's what they did with Tim's Vermeer. The minute I saw it from Penn and Teller, I went, "Oh yeah, let me look at this." And I watched it. I watched it twice to make sure, and then I picked out all the little pieces, the little cookie crumbs they dropped through the paint. And yeah, it was an elaborate joke in my opinion. Just an elaborate joke. But I gotta ask you, I mean, anybody who thinks it wasn't a joke, the guy wasn't using original painting. So, as a guy who's done Vermeer, like when I was doing the interpretation of Vermeer, I did. Again, it's on the scroll through of the images I painted. I think it's in there somewhere if it comes up. But it's the girl pouring the milk, and I I I spent a lot of time, more time looking up the colors to get them right than I did actually painting it. If you believe that. And finally, I got the right colors. And when it was done, I just couldn't believe my eyes that I had translated this in watercolor. Sometimes you surprise yourselves. But anyway, it was the ultramarine blues that really did, and layering ultramarine on top of ultramarine, getting those incredible rich tones, and then bringing the watercolor tablet down or table down to his base stuff, which again was ochres and siennas, umbers, and playing against that. If you can't, even if you can't see it, doesn't mean you couldn't paint it. You can paint it, but you can't get the colors right. That's the problem. That's what I'm saying. It was so hard to get the colors, and I finally got a copy. I finally got a picture that um, I think I got it right from where it was. A museum, the art museum. I think it's in. I think it's in from Holland or something. But anyway, I got it, and I thought, okay, this is most likely the closest. Yeah, I know they were producers of the talk. That was the key, right? Anyway, I finally got the colors because I got it right from the museum. So I knew they wouldn't allow a color photograph of the work to go out if the colors weren't right because then, it's not printed in China. They were doing. So I got one. Somebody brought one back for me or somehow. I did it quite a while ago. And I finally got it. But the thing was, he never even saw the original painting. So, I mean, how did he even know what colors he was supposed to use? Sure. He was copying a copy. That's what he was doing. And he doesn't know. doesn't know if the colors are right or not. He doesn't. Unless he compared it right side by side with the original, and that's never going to happen because it's in the Queen's private collection in Buckingham Palace. Like, you can't look at a painting for 5 minutes and say, "Oh, hey, I got all the colors now." I mean, like, think of the number of colors are in a painting. How could you memorize all those colors that quickly? You just can't. It's impossible. But that's when and then they had I think it was Penn Jillette interviewing the guy Tim on, like, across the Thames with the I think it was the British Parliament in the background, on the other side of the river, to give it like that reverence and all this. Oh God, it was hilarious. I mean, really, it was one of the best uh, fake dogs that I've ever seen. Yeah, I know the one you mean. What? Yeah, the red hat, and it's like feathers. It's feathery and all that stuff. Yeah, that I know. I did actually. I've done that one too. It was in the same book that came back from that. I've done that one too, and the red. Oh my God, it just glowed. Um, Again, he was using cadmium colors again. Like, they were very expensive. He wasn't a rich guy. His mother-in-law was pretty rich. He wasn't rich, but used like the best colors. But you know the big thing about that painting? You look, putting the magenta highlight in one eye and seeing that. Yes, I know. He stole that trick from another artist, but and then to show how good that trick was to steal, years later, Delacroix, the French artist, he stole it from Vermeer. So I mean, well, I shouldn't say stole. They borrowed stuff from each other, right? They see a technique. If you look at Delacroix, even drops of water, he'll put the three primes in the drop of water and the highlight. And Vermeer saw the same thing. But the thing about that little painting with the red hat, the lady in the red hat, it's only like 6 inches by 6 inches. What about the pinhole camera technique they used in the dog? What would have been the technique? Oh, well, it wasn't called a pinhole camera. It was like they used basically the same technology. It was called the camera obscura, and they would put it was like a pinhole camera, and they would um, set up like his studio the way he wanted it set up and whatnot. And then what would happen is it would be projected on the back of the camera obscura, and he would trace it out. And I would say that wasn't that uncommon in the day. You know the painter, they call him Ings in English, but in French they call Ingres. You know the woman sitting on the edge of the bathtub with her long back, and she's got a towel on her head, and oh, the skin tones are beyond belief. It's just it's almost scary how good they are. Anyway, um, he used a camera obscura. That's Obsqura. You can look it up on Google and read all about it. But lots of them used it, and the reason that they're pretty sure that Vermeer used it was that you can actually look at the paintings he did in that studio with the window on the left, the light coming through the window, and you can see where the point was for his camera obscura, and the lines drawn from that point, like the marble floor. He never had a marble floor. You wouldn't put a marble floor in those days on the second floor in a studio. That's where he painted, and but he put it in, obviously. But he worked real slow too. Like, I think 3, 4 paintings a year were his maximum output. Um, the camera obscura was known long before Vermeer. I mean, people knew about it, and they used it for oh, used it for the lines. What the hell? My art brain's gone to sleep on me. Sorry. Oh, God. Perspective. If you take a Vermeer and you can literally see exactly the same perspective, exactly the same, where he originally set up his camera obscura. And you can see it in a number of paintings. And some of there's one painting he did that had a mirror in it. And if you're doing perspective and you're reflecting other lines, uh, you don't pick up on it. But if you have a camera obscura, you can get those lines perfectly. And it's almost beyond the ability of the human eye to take that kind of stuff in. But if you have a camera obscura, it'll show you where they are because the refraction of the mirror, which those days, they weren't like mirrors today. Um, they would change the perspective slightly, but everything was perfect, you know. And he, you know, when they first, you got to remember one thing about Vermeer. Like, they didn't even know he existed until around 1860. All his work was basically attributed to other artists. And then somebody doing some research, art historian, stumbled across the after his death, the court trial where the wife had to go to court to settle his debts with her mother and his 13 kids. And they were asking the court for this painting and that painting, and then they looked in the collections of those guys and they went, "Oh, wait a minute, we just found an artist." And then they looked and they thought they were about 60 paintings that were 60 to 69. I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, they found that number of paintings that were attributed to Vermeer. Since then, they've knocked it back to 34. So there's 34 paintings by Vermeer that they know for sure were by Vermeer now. You see, another neat thing about that time is that he was in the transitional period from huge Rembrandt last watch size painting to a wealthy middle class that happened in Holland. Like Canvas Girl was Mere Secret Weapon when it actually was very common. It was to the art community, yeah. All artists know, but I knew about it from almost day one. Like when I went to art school, there was no there. It was a secret weapon, but it wasn't something that other artists didn't know. It's all over the place. People knew about this many years prior to Vermeer, and used it. I mean, you can't prove it obviously, um, but and also too, you weren't using it. The thing about here's the thing: the camera obscura is good if you're using a studio to do your work. Prior to Vermeer, you go 100 years back, people were still doing frescoes and inside tombs and ceilings and all that stuff. Well, you wouldn't use that. You wouldn't use a camera obscura for that. You just couldn't. You had to draw it out on the floor, get your perspective right, then take it up to the ceiling. You know, he didn't paint it on the ceiling. He painted it on the floor and then transferred it onto the ceiling with charcoal, and then he went and painted. He and his crew. That's Michelangelo. So anyway, the market completely changed as the middle class. The art buyers were still the wealthy in the church, but now all of a sudden you had a really wealthy middle class. In it wasn't it was the Low Countries then. Walloons were the people. Delft, that's where Vermeer was from, and what happened was is they just started doing a lot of studio painting, and these paintings weren't gigantic. They were maybe as big as 18 by 24, which would be huge for them. And one of the reasons was these wealthy people in the middle class weren't living in castles and palaces. They were living in like nice homes, but they couldn't put I mean, the ceiling was high, but it wasn't high enough to put a fresco up there, right? So they needed stuff they could hang, and they would hang things that were the size of the room. That's why Vermeer produced paintings that were small. is what was selling, and that was his market. That was that wealthy middle class. That's who really was the market, and that's why the paintings changed size. Well, the minute they changed size down to studio size, well, then the camera obscura got pulled out of the closet, and they, well, we got something to use to fix this in a hurry, and it would save them, you know, the amount of time it would save. You know, if you get a guy who's doing 3, 4 paintings a year, he might only did 2 paintings if he hadn't used the camera obscura, because it would take weeks to get the perspective exactly right, especially in those kind of paintings, because all the lines go into one point, like the floor, the sight lines, the window, the maps in the background, that kind of stuff. So what happened was the art market changes because of who is questing art. And what was the subject matter? The subject matter wasn't like the king of so and so or the queen or the whatever or the bishop. It was like a milkmaid. It was a scene of Delft. It was a woman, obviously somebody who wasn't poor but wasn't a queen, like the girl with the red hat. Even the girl with the pearl earring. Maybe somebody's daughter or something that they wanted a picture of. They weren't all noblemen and royals. They were more everyday people, wealth, middle class people, and that's who they painted for. And that's all it came down to. And they could afford it. They obviously Vermeer had somebody who really thought he was an incredible artist. Um, because somebody was paying for his pigments. Because you're making your own paints in those days, and he made his own paints from what it can. Unlike a lot of artists who had the art or the paint mixing guild come in and do all the work for them. And I don't know if you know about that, but an artist would the paintings were done in grisaille first, which simply means gray. They would work out all the tones in gray and get all their tonal values perfect, then decide what colors they'd use, knew exactly what they were. They call in the specialist, would mix the colors up for them, get them exactly the way they wanted, and they can get more or less whatever they needed, call them back. And these guys, this was like a trade. And that's even today why painters are a trade. I know most painters today are go to Home Depot, buy a can of paint, and just paint a wall, and what colored chip do you want to use? That's not what a painter, why it was a trade. Any idiot can do that. I mean, no offense to the painters. But in those days, a painter was a guy who mixed color. That was their specialty. And that is why a painter's a trade, the same as a plumber's a trade. Well, they were all sub trades of the artist. And they would be called in on a regular basis. And, they would use the same guy. That's why often you'd see an artist have a painting go from one to another, and you saw kind of the same colors. It's because he was using the same guy he knew the artist's preferences, and he would go, okay, you know which white I like, yeah. You know which red I like, yeah, I know, okay, good. You want me to use the lapis lazuli? No, we'll do this little cobalt this time. Drop the expenses. That's the kind of thing that went on, and it was a business. And it got to the point, like in Vermeer's time, give or take 100 years, that these guys never turned down a commission, no matter what. Any commission that came their way, they accepted, whether they could get it done in time or not. And usually they had to get it done in time. So what happened to that? For that was you had people who were specialists. Have you ever gone to a museum and you look at the trees, and the trees always seem to look the same from a certain period? That's because there was like artists out there who did the trees. So a painting you had done, and the guy would pick the scene, and you could do this or the background. Maybe you were doing the family or something. You would do that, but the background you didn't have time for. So you had people who put in backgrounds, and they would put in the trees, and there was a certain way they did it. That's why they always look kind of the same. Um, That didn't change until about 1800. Yeah, until about 1800. And even then, you had guys, if you look at some of the earlier American paintings, those guys were still around because they did the same type of trees, or else they simply just copied the style of those guys from like 200 years earlier. But that kind of is how painting worked. And for instance, if you look at an old painting from like a Dutch painting, and you see a woman sitting and she has flowers in her hands. You don't see her hands. That's because the guy who ordered the painting, you want to put hands in, it costs a bit more. So they'd say, well, I don't want to pay that. Well, we can put a bouquet of flowers in. Oh, okay, that'll do. That's fabulous. Well, then he'd call the guy who did the flowers. It was a specialty. You know what I mean? And that's like painting the romance aside. Painting had to look at. People had to make their living, and there was no social safety net. You lived to your next commission, and that's exactly what they did. They had specialists for flowers. They had specialists for backgrounds. They had guys who made up the colors. And this way, because of this, they were able to knock off way more commissions than you normally would have had time for. Because a guy would come in and I want three different standard sky backgrounds. Move the clouds around those. Okay, they would do that. No problem at all. And that's kind of how it worked. It was, and nobody, and I mean nobody, will say, well, and then it's not actually a painting by so and so. Well, yes, it is. He got the commission. He did all the major parts. But this is just the way it was. It doesn't. Everybody knew this. At least in the artist guilds, I knew it. It was a business, and some artists made a hell of a lot of money in that. But this kind of smart stuff that they knew how to do. So yeah, the Kammerskura got pulled out of the closet when they started painting in studio. And if you think of today, when I was in school, they used to call it a lazy Sally or lazy something. But anyway, it was a projector. You could project the thing if you wanted to. You could do that. But I've always, said, if Michelangelo had like an artograph projector, he would have used it. Trust me, would have. Because it's not only are you the artist, but you also have to look at the business side. Like what's common, people, like I hear this to this day, like Michelangelo was such a great artist that he defied the Pope. You think so, huh? No, he didn't. The Pope wanted ceiling painted in the Sistine Chapel. The Pope was a cheapskate. Well known. He had to pay for a war that he was so. He wanted this, but he didn't want to pay on time. So Michelangelo would go, and Michelangelo always left with the money. So the assumption was, well, Michelangelo was such a fantastically great man and so famous that the Pope literally went, no, it's okay, I'll cover it. No, that's not what happened. Michelangelo would go to the Pope and say, okay, here's the deal. I got about 25 guys working for me who are helping me, which is about the number you'd need to do what he did in 4. And if they have to all go back to Pisa and Venice and Florence, and they disband because they're not being paid. You don't even know who these people are, but they're all just going to leave. And now it's just me. So when you want it done in like a year after next, have it finished. It's going to be another 20 years before I finish it. Now the Pope really, really wanted the ceiling painted. So what did he do? He handed him the monies to keep his crew going. That's all it was. Listen to Michelangelo had any pull, because if he had any pull, Pope would have said, "Oh, I think we should hang you from the nearest yardarm or something." That's what would have really happened. It didn't happen because He wanted his damn ceiling painted. And then he came back, he didn't, that Pope. But another Pope who admired the ceiling came back and had him do years later, Descent into Hell, which was behind the altar, Sistine Chapel. But this is the reality of what happened. There's so much romantic crap that I don't mean it crap. It's just that it's like Disney, like make up stories, and stories are not really what happened. They sort of make it nice and sweet and like, and that's okay too. I mean, I don't say there's anything wrong with that, but the thing is, it don't take it for history. I remember one time I was down doing an interview. The Canadian artist, he's dead now. It was down in Yorkville. It's a real Tony part of Toronto, where all the galleries are, and Gucci and all those big ass stores. Like those really expensive stores where you buy a handkerchief and it's like $400. So I was down there and I was doing a TV show and I was doing an interview with Norval Morrisseau. He was having a show in front of the gallery he was in. He was an old man by then, and he had Parkinson's disease. Uh, and I was asking him some questions, and he had like a retinue of eyes around him. Right. Every time I would like move the mic towards him, this guy, I remember he's all dressed in blue jeans. It turned out it was his stepson or something. Would jump to me and go, "Don't come near him." And I go, "Well, I have to get his answer on the mic, or else nobody's going to hear what he has to say." Then he'd go, "Oh, okay." And it was constant and constant. And finally, I just said, "Look, if you're going to keep doing that, I have to kill the interview because I won't be able to use any of this footage because you won't let the man answer a question." And the old guy kind of looked, went, "Okay, it's okay." All right. So the kid backed off. Anyway, so Norval Morrisseau was an Indian, a First Nations person, and he painted like gods and images and wistful scenes of not Indian life, but like he was probably one of the best colorists I've ever seen. His drawing was okay, but it was his color usage, it just unbelievable, and very talented man. And he had these leechers on around him. There was about 10 of them, I guess, and they were all second cousins and all this stuff. And they knew they had somebody who was making some real money because if you walked into the gallery, his paintings in those days, they were like I don't know, like smallest one would be like 25 to $40,000, something like that. So he was doing okay, and the whole gallery was full of Norval Morrisseau's, and there was a lot sold. Like the red dots were on paintings, so he was in the right place, and he had a lot of followers. So after the shooting's over, and we got enough of the a good interview and all this stuff, and when he saw, I think when Morrisseau finally realizes I was talking to him about art, and I knew what I was talking about, and he wanted kind of to answer questions about his art, and that's why he told the young guy to back up. So anyway, the interview's over, and he gets a little tired, and I say, "Okay, so we wrapped it up, and then we stood there, and then all of a sudden, these guys go to their like a couple of pickup trucks and pull out like stones and wood and all this stuff, and right there in front of the gallery, in front of Yorkville, they put a fire together and lit it. Well, that wouldn't have probably been so bad. But what they started doing then was started taking like bunches of grass and putting it in. and walking around all the people that were around the gallery and walking your grill and doing that the holy smoke thing around them, and people were freaking out. So 10 minutes later, what happens? Well, I hear, well, the fire department gets called. So I said to the cameraman, I said, yeah, get this on camera. So he shoots the fire department. The guy's coming up, and they run up and they hose out the fire and grab all the grass and go. So they're looking for the guy to give a citation to, and I'm going, oh, for God's sake, don't bother the old man. He had nothing to do with this. So I think it was the gallery owner finally came out and accepted the fine or whatever. And oh, by the way, the 10 had disappeared into the crowd when this was going on. So there you go, right? So all that dies down. So I'm standing there, and there was a little bench, and I sat down, and the kid comes over to me and says, I don't think you respected my grandfather. This is after the interview. And I said, well, the fact that I'm here and I interviewed him, you heard the questions I asked, shows it's exactly the opposite. I respect the man, or why would I have interviewed him? I only asked him about his art, not about his personal demons or problems or anything. I was all about the art, not anything about anything else. He goes, well, we are Indians. No, he didn't say Indians. First Nations. In our culture, we're not like you people. We don't just use everything up and clear the forests and all this stuff. Well, okay. Shooting's over. So I said, oh, really? Okay. Obviously, you don't know much about your history then. And he says to me, well, of course I know our history. And I said, well, no, you don't, obviously. And he goes, why is that? I said, well, first of all, the smoke thing, it came from the Plains Indians. You're not a Plains Indian. You're a Cree. You know what a Cree is? He goes, of course I'm Cree. I said, well, you don't know what a Cree is then, because if you'd met a Plains Indian, he would have had your hair hanging from his horse. They weren't friends. So now he's getting his back riled a bit. And he starts telling me how we pollute the water and da 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 da. Which, I'm not disagreeing with him. I mean, this is not, I'm not trying to be disagreeable. Yeah, white man, yeah, it is. Or do really shitty things. Pardon my French, but really awful things. And anyway, to make a long story short, he finally gets to a part where he says, "We only took from Mother Earth what we needed to survive." Okay. I said, "Well, I guess you've never heard of Buffalo Jump, Alberta." And he goes, "Buffalo Jump, whatever. What does that mean?" I said, "Well, it's a place." He says, "Well, what do you mean, Buffalo Jump?" I said, "Oh, well, you know the Plains Indians you're talking about? The ones who lived in like the prairies in Alberta and through the Midwest and all those guys, all those guys." Yeah. I said, "Well, their idea of going hunting buffalo was to stampede the herd off a cliff. So it's still there today. There's like 100 million buffalo bones at the bottom of the cliff. You can go look at it. It's like a tourist attraction. And it's called Buffalo Jump. It's even a town around it. You can go look." And I said, explain to me how stampeding an entire herd of buffalo off a cliff was conserving buffalo. Can you answer me that? Know what he said to me? He said, bullshit. Turned around and walked away. That's what he said to me. And that's what I kind of mean about perception and reality. art, unfortunately, has a perception of being this esoteric, the feel. And this is done by the curators and galleries about, you know, and it doesn't matter what art you're talking about. If you talk about like modern artists, a lot of them were just absolute. Oh, they were drunks, and who am I thinking of here? The guy who just threw paint on a canvas. I don't know why my art brain's not working. Name brain isn't working. The art name brain isn't working. It'll come to me in a second. The guy who took paint and around and just took brushes and flicked the paint on all over the place. Oh, God, what's it? Anyway, that his life. Not only did he drink himself to death, not only did he screw up a whole bunch of people's lives. Pollock, Jackson Pollock, there you go. When he killed himself, he took a young woman with him. She died in the car too. Like, Pollock, thank you guys, thank you. He died like he killed somebody with him. Like, what kind of a person says, I'm gonna commit suicide, and you know what? I'm gonna take you with me. Oh, I mean, that's the reality. And so he wasn't a really nice fella. And when I was in art school, like 19, oh, back in the day, a lot of my instructors and teachers, professors in the school, they knew these guys personally. And they would regale us with the stories that these guys did. I'm telling you, I can't even repeat them on Twitch because somebody. I can't even repeat them on Twitch because they'll censor me. But if you only knew, and they had known them personally because they were younger art students when these guys were in their heyday, which would be in the 40s and 50s and all that stuff. And some of them told me flat out, some of these guys knew that it was just a con. And but they had a benefactor or whatever, and they would give them a line, and they would just produce some of this stuff. And now you're seeing it in galleries and art museums worth millions of dollars, and it was a con. They told me back in the day. They told me. You remember a sculptor named Henry Moore? Famous sculpture in Toronto's in front of Toronto City Hall. It's called the Archer. Now that sculptor, Henry Moore, was a British sculptor. I don't know anything about his personal life. But when I was in art school in 19, whatever, um, he was kind of like a has-been. Like, nobody was, his work wasn't selling. He had reached his peak in the early 60s, and he was in a downhill slide, which happens to artists. It happens. It happened to Rembrandt. Not uncommon. So his agent convinced the Art Gallery of Ontario that Henry Moore liked Toronto so much he was willing to give it bargain basement. Well, maybe not bargain basement, like a great price. A number of sculptures that he had done had been waiting for sales for many. And the people who curated at the time, the Art Gallery of Ontario, thought this was manna from heaven. So they had provincial money. So they bought up a whole slew of the stuff. Even the city of Toronto bought one. I forget what they paid. It was a huge amount of money. Put one in front of the new city hall that they had built. Well, we were a group of seven. Yeah, I like the group of seven. But anyway, that's what happened. So the guy, it wasn't a con, but the guy was like out of. They could have got the stuff if they waited 5 more years, probably for 5 cents on the dollar. Anyway, if you want to see who that is, look up Henry Moore on Google and you'll see his stuff. It's abstract art, which is um, done in the form of sculpture. There's nothing wrong with it, but it was out of um, vogue, out of the group of seven, huh? Well, the group of seven really cut new ground. You got to hand it to them. Lauren Harris, my favorite of the group. Um, Really, there's something about his paintings that just they're impressionistic, but they have a real feel to them. To me, he was a guy. In fact, all of them, they had a real feel, and they had a new way of looking at things and doing paintings. You do know that Tom Thompson, probably they think is the most famous of the group of seven, was never part of the group. He was an acquaintance, but he was never part of the group of seven. But out of that movement, Tom Thompson and Lauren Harris. I think the Lauren Harris, the last one, just sold for quite a few $1 million. It was the highest price paid for a Lauren Harris in many a moon. So Group of Seven stuff is going up in price. They have a whole gallery full of it just north of Toronto in a place called Kleinburg. And you can go there and see the stuff. It's breathtaking. If you ever get to Toronto, get a chance to look at it, go ahead. But if you want to, like Tom Thompson, he was the guy who mysteriously died in Algonquin Park, which is in northern Ontario, huge natural park that was left. And he would go out in his canoe and he would paint on little pieces like of plywood, like 8 by 10s. And those paintings he would do in his canoe are the ones that get all the money. People think it's his big studio work. It's not. It's those paintings, ones where he just felt the air in his face and the breeze and the waves and the sound and all that stuff. That impression, those are the paintings that get big money. You don't hear about those that much because they get bought up by the real collectors. Now, some of them were studio painters, and but they like the group of seven, the real raw, rough stuff with paint, and use of paint, etc., and the bold strokes. Oh God, they revolutionized art. And you know who really likes Canadian group of seven art is the Japanese. I can't get enough of it. They buy it up like crazy. I always wondered about that, like about the group of seven I like so much. But for me, my favorite is Lauren Harris. Barnett. Guy went to the First World War, came back, painted. Oh man, just some stuff. But I recounted a story the other night that I brokered a deal, Heffel, for a client who had an artist who was a friend of the group of seven. And he was a really famous guy. He was Fleming, the guy who discovered penicillin. He was a painter too. He had one of those little 8 by 10s, just like Tom Thompson. Now, not a ton of people know that he painted, but the thing is, um, he he painted real well, and I brokered the deal with Heffel for him, and somebody bought it, and they got, I think it went for 4 times the value. I mean, you can't read the market on a guy there isn't much art of. So I gave him a high estimate, thinking we get that will be great, and it went for like 4 times that amount. somebody out there had heard about the painting. I don't know, somebody. Or when I took it to Heffel originally for them to see it, the word went out, and then they knew it was coming up for auction because the first thing they said is, "Oh, I see what your estimate is. What if we have a buyer for your estimate?" And I went, "Nah, put it at auction." Because then you know, right? I mean, yeah, sure, you get the buyer, but then again, you don't know if it's going to go for more. Well, of course, it went for more, it went for 4 times as much. So that was a little move. So they probably spread the word amongst the people who collected that stuff. But the provenance of it was ironclad, and the reason it was ironclad was on the back of the painting. There was an envelope that had been glued, and inside the envelope was a letter that was written with like a fountain pen, and it was a letter to a person who was another doctor he knew, and it was to his wife who so admired his paintings, and he was sending her this painting from a summer painting tour he had done with so and so and so and so, and he named a couple of the group of 7 in the painting, and then he signed it, and that was in the envelope, and the letter was in the envelope on the back of the painting, and everything checked out, and it was sent to, even the address checked out on the title, to the original owner who had been that doctor. So there was no question it was a real painting, and it was the real deal, and it was magnificent. It was small, it was only 8 by 10, but it went for a considerable amount of money, and I got a nice little commission for brokering the deal, even though it went for way more than I thought it would. But I mean, I think it was a fact of a person. When I thought about it later, I thought, maybe a doctor bought it or something. Because if you're a wealthy doctor or something, you have like a Fleming painting on your wall with that kind of provenance. I mean, it's probably priceless too. So I kind of thought. So anyway, they had a big bid and it just went, just like that. But such is the art stories for tonight. I see it's pulling into 10 o'clock. This is long dry. I'll give you one last look at the highlighted God of War. There he is. I hope everybody likes him. I like him. That's for sure. I like him a lot. What did Forrest Gump say? I like him a lot. And he was fun to do. I like the foreshortened arm too. And his companion piece, Loki, God of War. Thanks, Boo. I really appreciate that. Fun to do. But Samos is next. And it isn't a really complicated painting, but it's going to look really good because I'm really going to bring up the reds on the helmet to a crescendo. And then I found the one after that. Here is the one I'm doing after Samos. I can't remember what the name was. I have it written down. But I think that is cool. The golds on the black, and I'm not going to do black background. I'm going to do the gray background. But I think it's going to look just fabulous. And I can't decide if it's a woman or not because it looks like a woman. Kind of like the body shape, but never know. I'm being paged. Anyway, thank you and good night. We'll see you tomorrow night. Same place, same time. And we'll be working on Samus from Metroid. An old favorite of mine. Where are you on next? Bliff, I'm on at 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock most nights. Lately that's been turning into like 7 till 10 o'clock, but like I said, if art was work, it would be different. But it'll when you do what you love and not work. But I'm off to actually work on another piece right now, mission. So I've got about an hour to work on it. I'm going to go for now, but I will be here at 7 o'clock. And hope to see you. And you guys have a great weekend, great Saturday. Nice to see you. Good night. We'll talk to you later. I'm putting up, by the way, the last one of Aries. So you're going to be in the queue. So anyway, good night. Have a good one.